Welcome to the KHOU 11 News Studios. Jason Bristol, Luis Ortiz, a 20-point win for the Houston Texans. 41-21 is the final over the New England Patriots. I feel like this win was for you because you wanted a convincing win. You wanted one. You called it. You called for one on Sports Extra last Sunday. Is this what you were looking for?
I think this is what the Texans were supposed to do today.
Okay.
Although I'm kind of a tough critic, I can say.
Yes.
Is it convincing? Well, I think when you compare against the opponent that you face today, comparing to maybe the Minnesota Vikings, maybe, the Green Bay Packers who are next, or Baltimore Ravens, you probably won't have this type of game against them. Or if you do play the way that you're supposed to be playing, maybe you will. But I think they did what they were supposed to do against a team like this, against a rookie quarterback in his first, NFL start, and against a team that is very bad, 1-4 coming into this game. This is the way the Texans were supposed to win.
Yeah.
I just don't think that we can be super, super excited about it.
Well, here's the deal. We want to know if you're super excited about it or super, super excited about it. Give us your one word. We're going to come up with our one word to describe this game. Certainly, Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Patriots are like a pill that cures all ills, but when you look at the stats, Joe Mixon, 102 yards rushing. Will Anderson with a career-high 3 sacks. Kaimi Fairbairn, basically, other than the one missed field goal, doing what he's done. CJ putting up good numbers, 20 of 31 for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was sacked twice. But basically, the big thing for me was the running game. It was non-existent without Joe Mixon. And then, poof, Joe Mixon's here, and look what happens. And Damen Pierce had a nice run as well.
Right, and we talked about it. That was one of our questions earlier this season, right? Is the running game dependent on that one running back, or is it more of the offensive line? Like, which one is the bigger key here, right?
Yeah.
And I think today we get that answer. Joe Mixon.
I think so, too.
Right?
I think so, too.
Like, Joe Mixon is in there, and you have a good running game. So today he had a great game, although early in the game I was paying attention, just watching the game, taking down notes. I was watching. He had, rushes for 2 yards, 3 yards, no gains. In the very beginning, I was like, okay, maybe the ankle isn't fully healthy yet. Maybe he's struggling. Maybe it is a whole offensive scheme or offensive issue where the running game is not going to be there. Well, never mind. That went out the window after later in the game when we do see he comes back. 100th career game, by the way, and he has over 100 yards rushing.
And that's what a good running game can do. It can wear down the opponent. And we've seen that time and time again, year after year, not necessarily with the Texans, but year after year, time and time again in the National Football League. Of course, we're also looking for your comments. Please leave them below here on our KHOU 11 Facebook page. We're taking your one word to describe what we saw up in Foxborough. Again, a 41-21 win by the Texans. They scored 14 in the first. They scored 13 in the third and then another 14 in the fourth. And I think it's also what I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say 14 points in one quarter matches the most that they've scored in one quarter this season.
And I think certainly one of the storylines leading up to this game was the absence of Nico Collins, who's out at least 4 games with the hamstring injury. When you look at the NFL teams out there, if there was any team that could absorb a hit like that, it's the Texans based on the depth they have in that wide receiver room. In this game, you had Stephon Diggs, 6 for 77. Tank Dell, 7 catches, 57 yards. Dalton Schultz had 4 catches. Joe Mixon, a couple of catches. But again, it just shows you how deep this team is at the wide receiver position, that they were able to move on and really not have much of a drop-off when you look at the air attack.
Yeah, you're right on it, right? And I think also what this game showed us is that Tank Dell, in the games when Nico Collins is playing, he's not getting many plays called his way. He's not getting as many touches that we probably thought he would, or maybe we would want him to, or that he wants to. And today, he had a great game, right? It just goes to show that they have, when they're fully healthy, they have way too many weapons probably to share the ball, right? It's like in the NBA when you got all these guys on one team and it's like, well, there's only one ball.
Yeah.
Who's going to get the most points? And here it is now. Tank Dell, Nico Collins goes down and he has a great game. But then when everyone's healthy, you got Joe Mixon, you got, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs.
Got a lot of mouths to feed.
Right.
A lot of mouths to feed.
It's hard to share the ball.
So Gregory is Gregory, one of our top fans. He's weighing in. He put H-Town Swarm. So I guess that the swarm could be one of the words for this game. Also looking at some of these stats, again, Will Anderson, this is player of the week type stuff, I would imagine. Will Anderson's certainly going to be mentioned when it comes to defensive player of the week with his 8 tackles, 3 sacks, and tackles for a loss. He had 4. So that is certainly one of the best games he's had as a Houston Texan, last year's Defensive Rookie of the Year. What'd you think of Drake May?
You know, I thought he showed he had a good moments.
Yeah, he had some moments.
40-yard touchdown pass.
He had some
That's
moments.
Not bad, right? I think we saw what we probably expected from him in his first NFL start against the team that pressures the most in the NFL, pressures the quarterback the most. So, off top of it, can you check and see how many sacks the Texans had today? I know
I got it right here.
Danielle Hunter.
I know there's
1,
3.
3, right? 3 by Will Anderson, 1 by Danielle Hunter, and I think that might be it.
They had 4 sacks.
Right. So to say that he got sacked 4 times, you know, I think he did. He held in there pretty well.
Also, and I hope everyone out there is sitting down, the penalty situation.
What
the
about
Texans
that?
had 4 for 38 yards. Who is this team? And that shows you that certainly it's been a point of emphasis with the coaches. It has to. They've said it. It has to be a point of emphasis. And again, 4 penalties, 38 yards, 1 turnover. And that's something also that you mentioned last week, that they had gone 3 games without a turnover, and you have 4 in this game. So again, the Patriots are one of these teams that they cure a lot of ills, baby. They cure a lot of ills.
And that goes back to, you know, the first question when you said, was I convinced this game? I think it's a little bit of disguised, you know? It's a great game. Don't get me wrong.
Because you're playing the Patriots.
Right. So if they can repeat this performance next week, then we're talking about, okay, the Texans are starting to find the rhythm. They're starting to get into that gear, that mode where, okay, progressively you get better. Obviously, in the penalties we see it, they are correcting the mistakes.
Yep.
We saw that D'Amico Ryans actually last week, there was a moment where he pulled Azeez Al-Shire to the side and he said, hey, I'm taking you out of this game if you don't clean it up. And then Al-Shire has a great game. So you can tell that D'Amico is talking to these guys the way that he needs to. He's being just very direct to them and say, okay, guys, we can't play this way. We can't commit this type of mistakes. And it appears that they're cleaning it up.
Yeah. 41-21 again is the final. The Texans improved to 5-1. The New England Patriots dropped to 1-5. We're looking for one word. Give us one word out there. Help us out here to describe this game. When the Texans came on, when they came into this game, they were what, a 6 or 7? What was the line? 6 or 7? Was it that much? I forget.
Just about.
Yeah,
but
so they win by 20. It's hard to win in the NFL. It's hard to win in the NFL, and Luis is not totally satisfied by what he saw today, but certainly this is a step in the right direction, and now you have the Green Bay Packers coming up, so that's going to be a real challenge, and that's one of the games I think a lot of us circled on the calendar. I know I did, thinking, okay, this is one of those measuring stick games, something that you can really see how does this Texans team stack up against some of the elite teams in the NFL.
Right, and heading into this game, some of the Texans were talking about they needed to win big today. They win by 20 points. That's a big win, right?
Yeah.
They kind of came out and did what they wanted to, especially coming out to a 14-0 lead early in the game in the first quarter. But then how about the second quarter, though? The offense stalled. Remember, there was they punt, there was an interception, and I don't want to speak wrongly here, so I'm just going to go back to the game log. But if you go to the second quarter, here it is. Offense stalled in the second quarter, so they missed the field goal.
Yep.
Interception in the end zone, and then they punted the ball. And so after scoring 14 points in the first quarter and then 3 possessions where you get nothing out of it, it was kind of like, okay, what happened there? They're losing.
It was a momentum stopper.
And the great thing about it is that coming out of halftime, well, they come out and Danielle Hunter sacks May for 9 yards and forces the fumble. Then C.J. Stroud connects with Stephon Diggs for that 10-yard touchdown pass. So they come out of the break with, the right way, and they set the tone for the second half.
D'Amico on the radio broadcast said some guys, we got to be ready. It seemed like some guys stop relaxing, I think was the quote that he said about that second quarter. Our guys are starting to get a little relaxed. And that's human nature when you're up 14-0 and then ultimately 14-7. But a veteran team, strong coaching staff, that's what they do. They say, listen, there's always coaching and teaching moments in the course of an NFL game, obviously. And it was good to see the Texans clean it up, because we've seen this team thus far.
Yeah,
it's been a rocky road, and again, to have a 20-point win, to get production from the wide receiver room, which you're expecting, but without Nico Collins, to have the running game back with Joe Mixon forcing turnovers. I don't know if this is a complete win, because you can always nitpick, but this is right up there with one of the most complete games
all season.
All season. I think you could probably say the Bears game as well.
Yeah.
I would think, but certainly a lot to like about this one, and certainly it'll be a nice flight back to Houston from the Boston airport, which is always a good thing. Again, leave us your one word. What are you thinking here? Let's do our words, and maybe we can get these people here to help us out.
Man.
You know, we do our satisfied and unsatisfied on Sports Extra. Make sure you watch us tonight at 10:30. We have our satisfaction survey, because what happens when you frequent a business or you buy a product, they send you a satisfaction survey. So we do our satisfaction survey each Sunday night. How satisfied were you with the product you saw on Sunday? So make sure you watch us 10:30 right here on KHOU 11 for Sports Extra.
I have mine. Yeah.
You have yours already.
I've been thinking about it for a while now, and I went back and forth. I feel like I'm going to give myself this fame or the reputation that I'm just...
Fame! Ooh, fame! I like this.
Just, as a negative Nancy, right?
Okay.
Because I'm being so tough and such a critic.
Yeah.
But, I give
there's
them
a lot of
credit.
kids out there that are
give them
glad
credit.
you're not their teacher.
Yeah, right?
All right.
Well, I'm going to go with happy.
Oh, wow.
Happy.
All right.
Even though maybe I don't come across as such, I would say I'm happy with the win. It was a good win.
Yeah. Is this bad? Expected?
No, that's a good one.
I would say expected. I think they did what a lot of us expected them to do. They won the turnover battle. They were good on third down. CJ had a big game. Certainly with Joe Mixon now back in the lineup, you're seeing the running game. They're forcing turnovers, something that, again, very astute observation by you last week, saying they hadn't forced a turnover in 3 games. It was mentioned early on the broadcast with this one, what they were able to get out of the receiver room minus Nico Collins. So I'm going to say expected. Now, the big question is, which way are you leaning tonight for our satisfaction survey? We have everything from very satisfied to very unsatisfied, with satisfied, unsatisfied, and neutral in between. Which way are you leaning at this point?
Yeah, I will go with satisfied. I will, just because, okay, if we really dissect it, yes, maybe you can say there's some makeup on this win because, again, deceiving. It's expected that they beat the Patriots, but okay, penalties were down, the running game was there, they spread the ball offensively through the air as well. CJ did get sacked a few times, so there's that. Like you said, we can always nitpick, but even though when the offense started in the second quarter, I like the way that they responded coming out of halftime. So I think there's a lot of good things that they did. Okay. Yes, I'm going to continue to harp on it's the Patriots. It could be a little bit of deceiving, but I like overall what they did today.
All right. Randy weighing in, and in full disclosure, Randy works with us here at KHOU 11. He has this word, easy, and he called it. He called it, Luis. He was expecting a 20-point win.
Oh, wow.
Now let's look at these other comments. Paul is weighing in.
Oh, I think Paul and I
Paul says they
the
still played like garbage. First quarter, I was looking forward to halftime nap. Come on, man. I don't know. I don't think garbage to me is a lot of turnovers, a lot of penalties, which we've seen. We've seen that. That to me is garbage. This was not garbage.
No.
Now, were they dominant? I don't think you could ever use the word dominant for this win because I don't think they ever looked dominant. Maybe for a stretch or two.
Yeah.
But like overall, but I'm surprised, Paul, that you would say garbage because yes, I know the opponent here, but garbage seems pretty harsh.
I thought I was tough, right? I thought I was the hard critic here, but Paul, he's taking this one. I would say no. Look, I never felt like the game was out of hand, right? As far as the Texans losing the lead. There was a moment there, maybe late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, where even Zach was saying, man,
our colleague, Zach Tawatari.
Yes. He was saying, man, they better not cough this one up, right? Because the Patriots were kind of gaining some momentum, but then, they get another turnover, and then they score the touchdown. And, I mean, you saw Joe Mixon had a good touchdown then, that Damen Pierce touchdown.
Yeah.
And then just put the nail in the coffin. So I would not call it garbage. No, not at all. But I do think demanding, like you said, maybe in a few moments where it looked like, okay, the Texans, early on, I think early in the game, when they come out and score 2 touchdowns, and then if you look at also the time of possession there, first touchdown, it was 11 plays, 65 yards, 5 minutes and 47 seconds. Then the second touchdown, 8 plays, 45 yards, 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
Yep.
We're talking about 10 minutes.
Yep.
10 minutes just there. Texans having the ball in the first quarter.
Yep.
The Patriots weren't able to do anything, early in the game. So I think that's when the Texans were really looking dominant. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a blowout.
Do we know yet what Damen Pierce or who Damen Pierce is? Because certainly
That's a good question.
he is one of the best guys on that team. We enjoy talking to him.
Yeah.
He's had an up and down, to put it mildly, 2 seasons since that phenomenal, season and a half, since his excellent rookie season. Is this the game that turns things around for him? He's become a bit of a different type of back than what he was when he first got here.
Yeah.
Certainly this was a step in the right direction, but I guess now, can he sustain it? And I wonder how much of what he did today is related to what Joe Mixon was doing as well.
Well, that's what I was going to lead into, right? And I don't know if we can answer the question, your initial question being, is this the game that turns things around for him? We don't know. That's to be told, right?
Yep.
We'll see that as the season unfolds. But I do think that this can be the game in which he starts to show maybe the progression that he's making. And you just touched on it. Maybe the Joe Mixon effect on him, right? Maybe he's watching how Joe Mixon runs. Or maybe Joe Mixon pulls him to the side and says, hey, in this situation, do this or do that. Maybe learn some of his patience, how to, maybe pause and change of direction.
Or that offensive line is just, with Mixon in there, has loosened things up a little bit for Damen Pierce when he comes in.
I think it might be a combination of everything, If the offensive line starts to really create gaps. There's one play, I can't remember exactly which one it was, but there was one play where Joe Mixon had a great run, and the way they blocked and opened up the path for him, if they can do that for Damen Pierce, then I imagine that he might be able to do the same, maybe not the same thing as Joe Mixon, but something similar to it, right?
Yeah. Interesting, though, when you look at the passing stats, CJ was 20 of 32, Drake May was 20 of 33, which on the surface you'd say, oh, wow, but obviously the game was well in hand and different types of defenses and things like that when the Texans are very far ahead. Penalties, again, is impressive. Time of possession, the Texans, they had a lot of short drives because of the turnovers, and that's why you see the Texans basically having about a minute difference in the time of possession. Red zone, hey, this is why I don't think this game is garbage right here. Red zone, 3 of 3.
Yeah.
3 of 3.
Right.
You go 3 of 3 in a game, you're probably going to do pretty well.
There was actually a stat mentioned during the broadcast where the Texans, I believe the number that was thrown out there was they were like 70% or more efficient when they're in the red zone. So they're apparently so far this season they're very good when they're within striking zone.
Passing first downs 13, rushing first downs 5. Third down efficiency, this is also pretty good, 4 of 11. They'll take that. I mean, obviously you love to be around 50%, but 4 of 11, and they were good on defense on third down, 3 of 13. Again, we're taking your one word. This is what we have: expected, easy, garbage, and Luis has happy. Luis has happy.
I'm happy with it.
That's good. You should be.
It's a good win.
You were really upset last week. Okay, maybe not that upset.
Right. I just, again.
You had standards that have not been met.
Right, and I just feel like every game thus far, before today, they were leaving something on the table, right? Like you just kind of feel like you were hungry for more. Today, I don't feel that way. I don't really have that takeaway. Today, I'm just like, okay, you know what? You look at different departments of it, you dissect the game, and you can see a lot of positives. The only thing that I guess negatively that I can say is that, okay, it's the Patriots. Again, it's the Patriots. It may be deceiving because they're such a bad team. But outside of that, I think you have to – it's not really about your opponent. It's about how you play ultimately, right? It's about what the Texans do. If they can do this again against even a good team, they will win. I mean, if Will Anderson – can have 3 sacks again in one game, that is a pretty good indication, that they may beat any team, whoever it is.
Yeah. Kia has weighed in with her word. Good. It's a good word.
Yeah.
Paul has responded.
Let's see.
I'll take the win, but they need to tighten up a bit. Sure. Oh, yeah, of course, and I'm sure they'll be the first ones to say that. Yeah. But again, I just didn't look at this game as garbage because when you look at things that coaches typically would call garbage, penalties, turnovers, unforced errors, things like that, and again, you certainly have to throw the opponent into the equation, but that was not what this game was about. That's not what this game was about. So again,
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
One thing I'm curious about, and once D'Amico comes to the podium, we have a short break. We can research. But
actually, we're not going to have that today.
Oh, okay.
Not going to have that.
Here
today.
we go.
So research away.
Well, okay. I'm curious about when's the last time they scored 41 points. Right?
I have to go look it up.
Right. That's why I'm talking about research. So this season, their biggest margin of victory has been 6 points before today.
Yeah.
That was their biggest win, 6-point win. Other than that, all the other games have been really, really close. We're talking about 2-point, 3-point wins. So
and that's why we have all thought, especially Seth Payne from Sports Radio 610, the former Texan, he had to keep reminding himself they're 4-1, they're 4-1, they're 4-1 because there were so many close games.
And games that maybe could have gone either way, so I think that there's a reason why we've been a little bit of, not skeptical, but again, critical of the way that they've played. But yeah, I'm curious about when.
I have the answer.
Let's see. Drum roll.
Playoffs last year.
Okay.
January 13th.
Against
Cleveland. They won 45-14. Last year they had 4 games, 5 including the playoffs, 5 games of 30 or more points.
Okay.
You had the Buccaneers game, which was that great down-to-the-wire game,
right.
39-37. They beat the Jaguars 37-17. You had a win over the Steelers 30-6. And a win over the Bengals at Cincinnati, 30-27. In addition to the playoff win, 45-14. So there's your answer. Steven is weighing in. It's a win. Yes, it is. It's a win, and that's what's most important. And that's what the Texans have been doing. They've been winning, whether you want to call it winning ugly or just plain winning. Because I know D'Amico does not like that term because a win's a win. There are no ugly wins. So
he's been clear about that. And also, to go with that, now the Texans are tied with the Chiefs and the Vikings for the most wins in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
At 5-1.
So here's the deal. Think about the beginning of the season. And I like to always kind of take a step back. If someone came up to you at home and said, hey, your Texans are going to start season 5-1, I think everyone would take it, right?
Oh, yeah.
No matter how you got there.
Right.
And it hasn't always been pretty, and I'm not saying that, again, this win cures all the ills. It doesn't. But big picture, 5-1 is a whole heck of a lot better than
2-3.
Well, basically most of the NFL.
Right.
How many teams would love to have?
Oh, yeah.
You think the Cowboys wouldn't want to be 5-1?
I was talking to some Cowboy fans over the weekend, and I mentioned the November 18th game, Texans at Cowboys. And I was like, it should be a good game. And they laughed and said, yeah, for you guys. Yeah. I think Cowboys fans are already expecting the Texans to win.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I would say based on this Texans team and the way it's been kind of unpredictable in a way, I think it's going to be a close game. And that's why I used expected as my word here, because this was an expected win. We haven't gotten a lot of expected games In terms of the overall performance by the Texans, Steven said it's a win. He also said the offensive line needs to protect CJ. Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I thought the offensive line wasn't its best day, but when you run for more than 100 yards like they did, and you got the production on the ground, in fact, they ran for when you run for almost 200 yards on the ground, that's a pretty good day, and you're 4 of 11 on third down, and your quarterback throws for almost 200 yards. I think it's a pretty good day for the offensive line.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like there's two sides to the coin, right? So today, offensive line, great job as far as the running game.
Yeah.
Maybe protecting CJ, not terrible. 3 sacks isn't, a dramatic number, but you obviously would rather have 0 sacks.
Yeah. Actually, he was credited with CJ was sacked twice, according to this.
But going back to your point, whether it was a pretty win, an ugly win, whatever type of win, yes, to start 5-1, one of the biggest thing about it is you keep just increasing that lead in the division, right? So if in case you do run into a hiccup down the road, or a small stretch where you maybe lose 1 or 2 games in a row, then you at least know you have that cushion.
Yeah, you have this start in your back pocket.
Right.
This start will be vitally important because of the stretch of games at the end of the year, and not just the opponents, but the duration of days between games.
Right.
Because they have the Ravens and the Chiefs and
within 7 days, I believe.
Yeah, I mean that's nuts. You've got 2 of the best teams in football that close together, and then when you think about the pounding that a body takes playing this sport, and some of the injuries we've seen late in the season, past years, that's going to be difficult to say the least.
Now that you mentioned that, I'm thinking.
Okay.
In the NBA, we hear about load management.
Load management. It's not really a thing in football until we get to like the end of the season.
But what are the odds, maybe, especially for that week that you just mentioned, Ravens and Chiefs back to back? What are the odds that maybe we see some load management from D'Amico?
I think it depends where they are in the standings.
Right.
If they've only lost 1 game, it's funny that you bring that up. And now that I think about it, you might be onto something.
I mean, those are your 2 biggest games all year.
Because if they have 1 loss by that time, and they've already sewn up the division, I
think you definitely do it.
I don't know, but I think it's something to think about, because certainly those are teams you're going to play in the playoffs, ultimately, if you need to get to where you want to go.
Right.
And we talk about this in the preseason, how coaches don't always want to show their hand. So maybe they punt those last 3 games if they need to. I don't know. That's an interesting point.
See, because before those 2 games, before the Chiefs and the Ravens, they'd be playing the Dolphins.
Yep. And then before that, the Jaguars, the Titans, and the Cowboys.
Right. So
if they've lost only 1 game leading up to those games, or maybe they play everybody against the Chiefs and then they sit guys for the Ravens. I think that would be the more likely scenario.
Yeah. It's interesting. I guess it's something to kind of be curious about as the season goes on.
Yeah, we should circle this discussion, right?
Later, yeah.
And then we'll revisit it back when
about 5 or 6 games from now.
when they start to talk about this stuff. So, all right, I think that'll wrap it up. We thank everybody. Which word do you think best describes? I'll let you. Which one? You want happy?
No, I think yours was right on. Expected.
Well, I was gonna say happy.
No. I mean, we are happy.
It was expected.
Yes. It was an expected win, but we're happy about it.
And
how about that?
Someone else weighing in, glad to see Mixon back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're not the only one. So once again, the final, Houston, the Texans 41, the New England Patriots 21, a 20-point win. Thanks for watching. For Luis, I'm Jason. As always, we appreciate you weighing in on these post-game moments that we have here from the KHOU 11 News Studios. So until next time, have a great week, and we'll see you later.